Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorials. Actually, today we're going to be talking about Blender portals, and it's kind of a confusing thing in the Blender world. So I'm just gonna kind of hopefully help with a little bit of that. So I put together the scene, and actually after this, stay with me because after I'm done with this little presentation, it'll probably take a minute. Is I'm going to help you set up a scene and understand how to use portals, because it's kind of, if you don't know what you're doing, it's kind of hard to use the portals. So I set up this little scene, and this is just a cube pretty much. I put four planes, actually not four. I put four planes going around, and one on top and one on top, one on bottom, and then I put this little gap in it, and then I increase the environmental lighting so that there's a lot of lighting going into the scene. And this is with portals, so you can see there's not too much noise. And this one took 3.5 minutes to render, so not too bad. And so I'm gonna go through, and these are kind of small pictures, but you can see that this one's really bad in the noise. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. 10 samples, but that's 10 samples. Kind of supposed to be bad. But if you do 10 samples with portals, you're getting about the same quality as the 50 samples is getting. And it's taking 22 seconds, whereas this is taking 10. So this is kind of a neat thing. You can pause this and look at it, but I'm going to continue on. So this is the same thing, but if I go back, I just cropped to this little piece on all of them, so they're all exactly the same. And you can see this one's way bad. Of course, it's only 10 samples, but 10 samples with the portals is still bad, but it's not near as bad as this. And it was only 4 seconds more. This one, the 10 samples and the 50 samples are about comparable, but it's about half the time. And same with the 50 samples and 200 samples. If you look at that, this one actually might be a little bit better. Maybe a little bit. Nah, I wouldn't say so. I bet it's about the same. And then this one is, this one's definitely better than that one, I think. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but on mine, there is hardly any grain in this. Whereas there's quite a bit of grain. This one has just a little bit less than this one. And this one, this is golden right here. So, and you can see that it only took 3 minutes and 37 seconds for this. Whereas, well, I guess I don't know how much it would, but for the same comparable render, it'd probably be almost 5 minutes, is what I would guess. Just because if we keep looking at this, it's almost double. 32 seconds. This one's a little bit better. So I'd say probably if I were to crank this up to 250 samples, it'd probably be about a minute and 10 seconds, or a minute even. And then that's about double. And this is about, well, that's not about double, but this one's clearly better than this one. So I don't know. If I were to get exactly the same quality out of this, it'd probably be close to 5 minutes. So it cuts down quite a bit, especially on these low sample renders, especially because this one's more than half of the render time. So, and then I wanted to kind of zoom in with these ones. These are about, this one even looks better to me, and it's 10 seconds compared to the 22. So, on this one, same here. This is the 50 samples to 200 samples one, and this one looks better to me. It's got a lot less grainy. Well, it's about the same actually, but I don't know. For the same comparable time, it's well worth it to try and learn how to use these portals. So I'm gonna open up Blender real quick, and I'm just gonna use this cube, and I'm gonna make it bigger. I don't think I need to turn on I'll turn on my screencast keys real quick. Shouldn't be too bad to turn them on so you can see what's going on. Okay. Now you can go ahead and see what's going on down here. I'm just going to make this pretty big, and I'm going to put my camera inside of it. It's approximately, I'm gonna hit 5 on my keypad to turn this into orthographic mode instead of perspective, so everything's flat. If I hit 1, it's flat. If I hit 3, instead of having perspective where the cube is like has the perspective, I can hit 5 and it'll be flat. So I like that for right now. But I'm gonna position the bottom of it close to the axis. Actually, maybe not. I'm gonna put it right here somewhere. Make sure my camera is inside of the box. If I go top view and I go front view, if it's always inside that box in all 3 of those views, you can check in 2 and it should be right, but 3 is just a added benefit. So I'm going to make sure that, and I'm going to click on the box, right click on it, hit tab, go into the front view. Actually, before I hit the front view, I want to kind of scroll around with my middle mouse button. I want to click on 4 edges like this one plane, and I'm going to go back into front view now. And I'm going, let's see what would be the easiest way. I'm going to hit, actually I didn't even have to select that. I'm going to hit Control R, and what that does is it's called loop cuts, and I'm just going to make a window. So if I scroll, if they don't appear, kind of hover close to the edge of it, and you just want to make sure that it's going like this. So I'm going to make 2 cuts. So if you scroll up, you can scroll probably infinite times. I don't know what the limit is on it, but I want 2. And I'm going to hit click. And now it lets me slide it. I'm going to slide it over here a little bit because my camera's over here. And that allows the environment to interact with it a little bit better. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit Control R again. I'm going to do 2 again. And I'm going to move it up so that I have this square right here. Then I'm going to hit X. I'm going to go to Faces. Now if I hit Z and I'm not in wireframe mode anymore, I now have this cut out. Now if I'm going to hit 0 on my numpad and I go inside of that cube, I'm going to look up a little bit. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go like this so I can see 2 things at once. And I'm going to hit N and T and T and N again. I'm going to hit 0 in this one. And over here, I'm going to move my camera just so that I can see what's going on from a few different perspectives. I'm using G and R for grab and rotate. And I want to be able to see in the camera a little bit of this just so that you don't have to. But for this, I'm going to so that you can see what's going on here a little bit better. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm hit Z, and you can see it only does the viewport shading on one side, so that's good. I'm going to right click on this light, and I'm going to put it right where this is at. And you can only see it really in this one, unless you go into a different view. Next, when we have the light right clicked on and highlighted, we're going to go to this over here and go to area. And then the next thing is you're going to hit portal. That means your portal is on, and if you go up, you want to rotate it so that it's facing in, because the light, you have to imagine light from the outside coming in this cube or this little square. What direction is the light going to be? And because we're using environmental lighting, it's actually coming from everywhere. So in a sense, it's only coming from this one direction if it's coming from anywhere, which is kind of weird to think about. So I'm just going to put this coming in like this. And I'm going to increase, I'm going to hit 1 to go back to that side view, or the front view. I'm going to increase these. And these have to fill this box. And you can see it's a little bit rotated, so we're going to just rotate it. And we're going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to move it with G, make it a little bit bigger. And I just want to cover that box completely. And what that does, it actually doesn't let the environmental lighting come in, but rather replaces the environmental lighting with an area lamp, and it corrects stuff so that, because Cycles is a very intensive render engine, and if you can specify a little bit of these things, it makes it a little bit better. So I just zoomed in. I want to fill it a little bit extra just in case there's a little bit of light. And I'm going to go to, let's see what we got. What do we want to do next? If we go, we're in camera view over here, right? You can go ahead. I'm going to move. Actually, I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to tab edit mode of the cube. So now I'm going to hit B, and I'm going to select all these bottom vertices and move it up. So we have this corner here. What that does is you actually see a lot of graininess in dark areas, and there's going to be some dark areas in the corner. So I liked to have that in there. I'm going to now get out of there and right click on the light again and turn off portal. Now we're just going to hit, I'm going to just render it now and see what we got. So we have a pretty good lighting come inside of it. Now, and we have graininess coming on those cracks. You can see it pretty easy in the cracks and on this wall over here. So I'm going to hit portal now, and I'm going to hit F12, and we actually don't get as much lighting. And now all we have to do to fix that is come into the world and hit use nodes and turn up the strength. And I'm going to turn on the rendered viewport shading so that I can see a little bit better. So I have this pretty bright. I'm going to go to 40. I think that'll work. And then I'm going to turn off portal and see. Yeah. So you can use any strength of the environmental lighting that you want. You can go with 10 and be a little bit darker, and you'll see a little bit more grainy if you want to try this out. And I'm going to do something because we're going to get a little bit. I'm going to make this hole a little bit smaller. So I'm going to actually, yeah, I'll make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to grab all of those vertices and move it a little bit closer, and grab all of those, move it down. So I'm going to make the room overall darker. But we have just this small hole now. Let's make that light about the same size as that hole again. Okay. Now we're going to get, it's not necessarily better results, but easier to see results. So I'm going to crank up the strength, because the cracks are now going to be a little bit noisier. So I'm making this scene pretty noisy for just the original Cycles render. So this is with portal on. If we just take off portal, see how much more grainy that is. Especially if you have this on the viewport shading to rendered, you will see a huge difference. So that's how you do it, and you just want to cover every hole that you get from environmental lighting with these area lamps. And it's better to have one big one, like one big area lamp, than it is to have a couple. So instead of, it would not be better to do 2 area lamps like this side by side. It is better just to have one big one. It's just the way that the Cycles renders it makes it easier, and it makes sense because there's only light coming from one path instead of 2 different ones it has to calculate. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the tutorial. Thanks for watching. Hopefully it clears up a little bit of confusion about portals, and I hope that you understand that the portals really does make your scene less grainy and noisy. So go ahead and use them. They're good. So thanks for watching.